Hey everyone, Caroline Roberts here, and welcome back to the Writers Retreat Network for Premium Content Wednesdays. Super excited to be back with another video. I hope that you guys are doing well. Leave a comment in the comment section and let me know how your writing has been going, what you've been working on. But I guess before we get started, I have two small announcements to make. Well, the first one is not really small, but this Saturday we are doing a soft relaunch of our network, so you can expect a lot of exciting things coming out. So we're going to be giving more information about that tomorrow. And then we actually have a new poll on our front page of our network. So if you haven't already submitted your answer to the poll, definitely go to the front page of our network and submit your answer. But to all of our new network members, welcome to Premium Content Wednesdays. Welcome to the network. We're super excited to have you. Definitely sift through the forums, make some new friends, and all of that good stuff. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about how long should your book be, or how long should your manuscript be? People ask me this question all the time. They're wondering if, they have not enough words, or they have too many words, if it's too short or if it's too long. And I created this video to address that question. It varies depending on many different aspects or many different situations. So I'm going to talk about all those different situations today. I actually had a recent client, and I was working on editing her manuscript, and she had like over 20 chapters, but her book wasn't a book like as big as a book that you would normally see that many amount of chapters in. So I basically consulted with her, and I said, a lot of your chapters are talking about similar topics or ideas. So I think that you should join and mesh some of your chapters together to bring more focus and organization to your book. So the first thing is, if you're writing your manuscript and there are different chapters that are repeating some of the things you said in other chapters, or they're talking about the same thing, definitely consider joining those chapters together so that your chapters can be longer and you can limit the amount of chapters that you have. But the way that I was able to notice this is because we went through the developmental editing process. So because I was her developmental editor, I was able to read her book and help her develop her ideas and help her say, okay, this is the idea that you're doing here, so maybe we can join it over here. So that is one of the other reasons why the developmental edit is one of the most important parts of the publishing process, because when you are developing your ideas and going through in developmental edit stage, then your editor can help give you ideas on how to organize your book. It may not even be joining chapters, but rearranging your chapters. Sometimes you may have a chapter that comes first, but you need to push it a little back. So with developmental editing, it really helps you to rearrange your chapters, making sure that you're grouping the right ideas and topics together, and making sure that it's organized and that it makes sense and it's all flowing cohesively. You want to make sure that your manuscript and your book has a flow, and creating chapters is part of making that flow for your book. So before you even publish your book, you want to ask yourself, what is your goal in terms of the message you want people to receive? So bottom line, in one word or in one sentence, you should be able to say, what message do I want people to leave with? What is the overall message that I want people to take from my book? And when you set that goal, you'll be able to have something to measure it by to see if you've reached it. Because I tell writers, don't try to meet a specific word count for your book, but meet your goal. So as long as you achieve your goal of making sure that your reader receives that message or the purpose of why you were writing, then it doesn't matter how many words it is. For some people, it may take them, 30,000 words to achieve that goal within that book. For other writers, it may take them 60,000 words to achieve that goal within that book. So what is the message that you want people to leave with when they finish reading your book and someone else asks them, what was that book about? What do you want them to say? And if they were to read your book now, could they clearly say, this is what it's about, I understand, I received a message from it? Or if they were to read your book now, would they still have some more questions and be like, okay, but what was the purpose of this book? Or what are you trying to accomplish? Or what are you trying to say here? If those questions are still there, then that means that there's still some developing to do. There's still some words that you can add to your book. If there's still, and that's why back to the developmental editing process, that's why it's so important. Because your developmental editor is going to answer those questions before the people have the opportunity, or before the readers have the opportunity to ask those questions. So the developmental editor is going to say, what do you mean by this? Can you go deeper in this area? And when I went through my developmental editing process for my last book, I think my developmental editor, by the time she was done with me, I added like 7,000 more words to my book. So I may have thought my book was close to done and almost finished, but when I went through the editing process with my developmental editor, I realized that I wasn't finished. I realized that my book needed to be longer. I needed to add a few more chapters, a few more stories, a few more examples to make sure that my point or my message that I wanted to get across was reached. So you definitely want to set that goal in advance, and then when it's time to measure up, ask yourself, have I reached this goal? Do I feel confident? Do I feel fulfilled in what I've written? Or do I still feel like I'm holding back? Do I still feel like, there's more inside of me that I could have poured out? Don't hold back. Don't be afraid. Pour it all out, put it out there, and make sure that you get your message across. Also, if your book is really long, consider making it a series. Or maybe if it's a really long message, maybe your message is just one message of multiple messages, if that makes sense. So maybe your message is a small part of a whole. So you may want to consider creating a part 1 and a part 2, or you may want to consider creating a book series if your books are topical and can focus on different topics, if that makes sense. So for some people, you maybe don't have to squish everything into one book. Maybe, like I know one girl in our last writers meetup, there was a girl who came and she said she's been keeping diaries for years and years and years, and she wanted to turn it into a book. And she probably has like thousands of entries, and I made the suggestion, maybe you can go through your old diary entries and you can organize them into different topics or into different focuses, and they'll become different devotionals. It may be a lot to put like 1,000 different diary entries into one book, because when you have so much different topics and so many different things going on, it takes away from the focus, and it can get confusing really, really quick. So make sure that you have a focus for your book and you write according to that focus. And the last thing that I want to say is that it also depends on the format of your book. Every book is formatted differently. Every book, depending on the audience, depending on the niche and the topic that is focused on, is a different range, okay? So fiction books, for example, are generally longer than non-fiction books. So a fiction book may easily be 60,000, 70,000 words. A non-fiction self-help book may turn out to be 30,000 words, which I think is the average for people, especially in our genre. A lot of us write Christian nonfiction. That's usually around 30,000 words. It can be less, it can be more, but that's just like an average. Children's books are obviously not going to be that long because they're for children, and children can't read all of those, words in long paragraphs. So that's why children's books are smaller. Recipe books or poetry books, instead of adding super long chapters, you may break it up per poem, or you may break it up per recipe instead of breaking it up per chapters. So you want to ask yourself, what is my topic? What is my niche and genre? And goes to the library, find other similar books in your genre and feel it. Look at it. Look at the amount of words they have. Look at the amount of pages they have. Look how big it is. A textbook, for example, is probably going to be super huge, but if that's not your genre, then you probably don't have to write that amount of words. So that is basically it for this video on Premium Content Wednesdays. I hope that my tips gave you some idea of how long your book should be. Like I said, there's no specific number, but you can look at other books in your genre, other books having similar topics, and make sure that overall you get your message across there, and you make sure you go through the developmental editing process in order to help you do that. All right, so I hope that you guys found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next Premium Content Wednesday video. Until next time, bye.